Hello, and welcome back to American Motherhood, where we explore how politics and society shape motherhood in America. I'm Bethany, a liberal mom of two in Central Ohio, and I'm on a mission to bridge the divide between liberal and conservative moms through honest, curious, and respectful conversations. I'm excited to bring you another episode in our local election series, where we've been getting to know the candidates running for Westerville City Council and the Westerville City School Board of Education. I sat down with Anisa Liban, the current vice president of the Westerville City School Board, running for re-election this fall. Anisa is a first-generation student, a mom who believes learning begins in the earliest years, and an entrepreneur with deep experience in nonprofits and public affairs. She brings both passion and strategy to the work of ensuring every student in our community has the opportunity to succeed. This is a thoughtful and engaging conversation, bringing a perspective to our community that I think you'll want to hear. My goal is to make this election more accessible to all of our voters in Westerville, and your support helps make that possible. If you enjoy today's episode, please subscribe to American Motherhood on your favorite podcast app, leave a review, and share it with a friend. Okay, let's dive in. Anisa, thank you so much for being here on the podcast to talk about your campaign, and I'm so excited to get to know you today. To start, can you tell us about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely, Bethany. My name is Anisa Liban. I'm a Columbus native. I say I'm a Columbus native because I actually was born in Nairobi, Kenya, but I came to Columbus at the age of 2 years old. So really, this is all that I've ever known. This is home for me. So while I am technically an immigrant, I am just proud to be a Buckeye. Like you, I'm also a mom. I have a son, Harun, who is 2 on the 22nd of this month. So just next Friday, I'm very excited about that. And I live in Westerville with my husband, Hood, and I really am just a proud product of public schools. This spring, I had the honor of handing my brother-in-law his graduation certificate at the ceremony. And so I've had in-laws go through the district. I have a lot of family, nephews and nieces who are actually going through the district right now. So this role is really personal for me. I'll also say that I am from the Somali American community here in Central Ohio. We are a huge, huge community. I believe we are the largest African immigrant community in Central Ohio and among the top 2 immigrant communities in the state. We have a large population. And here in Westerville, we have a lot of business owners. And so I'm really proud of that heritage and to be a part of that community as well.
Yeah, how wonderful. So tell us how you joined the school board and also what motivated you to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think really my journey on the school board was a bit interesting. I was appointed, and I'm currently running to keep my seat. So technically a re-election. My professional background is in government. For many years, I supported lawmakers at the State House, specifically in the Senate. I then went on and supported an amazing council member through Columbus City Council, who is now our prosecutor. And after that, I had an opportunity to support various nonprofits on the ground prior to having my son. And today I serve as a nonprofit consultant, helping a lot of major organizations in Central Ohio. And so really, I bring that public affairs background when I saw in the nonprofit background as well. When this position became available, I really decided to toss my name in the hat because in addition to being among a growing community and just the immigrant community, I think being a woman of color, being a young mom, a proud product of public education, someone who is so passionate about giving back and loves this community dearly, I wanted to have a role where I could not only be a voice for many, many individuals, but I really felt that I was bringing a fresh perspective in how we approach community engagement. Again, professionally, I've been there behind the scenes helping officials have very difficult conversations with community members, passing policies. And so, there was a lot of adjacent work that I was already familiar with. Again, putting on the nonprofit hat, having an idea of how, we have to manage budgets and just what does it really mean to collaborate with the community. And I felt that this district could really benefit from having someone with my lived experiences. So there were a lot of whys and a lot of things that really motivated me to join the board. I really do believe that representation matters. For me, being the only person of color on the board right now, during the short time that I've been on the board, I've seen just how much that means to people in this community. And I say that not lightly because everyone has such a big heart and we're all here because our kids matter first, right? Um, and so we're all aligned on that front. But I really think that when you bring a lived experience to the table and you're able to look at policies and decisions through an equity lens, um, that really just changes everything. And so that was my why. I think just throughout my life in public education, I really try to put myself in the shoes of our children right now. I benefited from English learning services when I was a kid. I took, public transportation. I benefited from free and reduced lunch. I actually experienced homelessness in 10th grade. And so, I know that a lot of these issues aren't just unique to me, but there are so many kids in our district right now that have very similar issues and they need someone to be a champion for them. And so I really get that. And so this work is really deeply personal for me. And so I really wanted to make sure that I could um, share my skills as well and really be a voice for everybody.
Yeah. Oh gosh, that's really powerful. And I'm looking forward to learning more about how your background can serve the community. So first, how would you describe this past year on the board?
Yes, I think this past year was honestly spectacular. I mean, with a capital S, I think that there are a lot of highs and there were some lows. Not anything that our district did, but just kind of seeing the state really try and punish our children, um, really forcing many of us to be on the front lines. I mean, that was a lot of work, a lot of time and energy that had to be put into advocating against certain provisions in the biennial state budget. And I'm proud of the advocacy that I was a part of. I made sure to, be among others who were on the front line of that work. I gave testimony. I made sure to check in with board leadership. Really collaboratively got input from other lawmakers and other school board members to really see how collectively we could impact some of the policy decision making that was being done at the state house. I also really made sure to activate different community members and really encourage them to call their lawmakers. I had amazing conversations with parents who never knew that they could contact a lawmaker. And I think that's why this work is so critical, is because sometimes our neighbors just need to see themselves in us. And it's just that one ask that could really make a difference. And so I think this year it went really well. I think the advocacy, ultimately, we're still fighting for our children right now, but I'm proud of some of the provisions that we were able to have the governor veto. And that fight is not over. It's far from over, but I am proud of that work that we've done as a district, especially Westerville. I mean, I think that we were an amazing example. I'm just so proud of our treasurer and just our superintendent, everyone, and the families on the ground. I'll say that I'm a very hands-on person. And so when I was visiting the buildings, I wasn't just stopping by to say hello. For me, I really stayed to speak with the children and to teachers. I got to read to folks. I participated in some project that some of the students reached out to me to get help with. I helped organize free stores in a few of our buildings and even donated some clothes and hijabs to our free stores. So this year was amazing. I think that I really made sure that I was showing up. I got to learn, especially when it's your first year. And I came in late September as well. So the school year had already started. So I was kind of playing catch up. There was a lot happening. It was a really intense time to come into the district. We had a lot of really important policies that were before us. And so for me, I really just wanted to make sure that I was listening while I was learning and showing up, because I recognized that presence mattered. And so I'll say this school year, it went by really fast, but it's because of the work that had to be done.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Can you tell me more about the free stores? Because I've been wondering how people can give back in that way. So I'm curious how those are run and stocked.
Absolutely. Yeah. So my introduction to that was I had a school nurse reach out and just sort of stated like, hey, when our students are, getting dirty on the playground or at lunch, or they're just ill and their clothes get ruined, we may not have culturally appropriate clothes for them. can you connect us to resources? And that's how I kind of got engaged. And then we had another community group kind of share that at a public meeting. And I went the next day, I went to Huber Ridge and I donated more than 2 dozen scarves and a few shirts to the school. And there are a lot of other schools as well. I know that I had a chance to tour Amherst Elementary, and their free store is amazing. It's so well organized. I just love what the staff did there. But I think the best way for folks who are interested in giving back in that capacity is to reach out to the school nurse or the school principal and the guidance counselors. And if it's, clothes or supplies that you feel are in, of course, good condition, reach out to those leaders first and ask if those are items that can be donated, because more than likely it is and they need it. And a lot of our buildings also just need support organizing. There are a lot of lost items. As you can all imagine, it's very overwhelming to keep track of storage, and even storing those items in an efficient way is very overwhelming as well. So we need boxes, all sorts of storage tools. And so there's a lot of opportunities to help the schools in that sense.
Yeah, very cool. And it's so impactful, and it's right here at the school that you go to every day. Really easy way to give back. That's awesome. Mm-hmm. And you reminded me in your answer, if we can touch on how you navigate those difficult conversations. How do you stay focused on, the end goal, the shared goal, despite, some charged conversations that you may have with community members?
I honestly just try to remind myself in the moment that this is another human being that I'm talking to at the end of the day. And while we may be on very opposite sides of a spectrum, or we may not see eye to eyes on a topic, every single person in this community is deserving of being listened to and respected. And also, just in this position, I have to take back the feedback, whether I like it or agree. That's my job. My job is not to say someone's right or wrong. It's to say, thank you for the feedback. I'm going to take it back to the appropriate individuals, and we will come back with a response. And so when there have been a lot of hard conversations, whether it's with a lawmaker or with a parent or with a, passionate community member or members, right? But I think what really grounds me is just sort of knowing that, at least to date, when I've had really uncomfortable conversations with people, it's never ended in something negative. It's usually ended with, wow, I did not know that about you, or I really appreciate you taking time to listen to me. And so I know that all people really want to do is feel heard and listened to. So that helps a lot. But also I am personally always motivated by knowing that it's a learning experience for me as well. So if someone comes to me with a very valid question, I then can go back to the appropriate district leader and say, hey, can we get the data on this? Can we actually go back and have a conversation about this, or circle back? And it just seems like we never, closed the loop on this issue. I mean, this is a huge district with a lot of needs. And so I think that for people looking out on the outside, and I was in that shoe this time last year, we might think, oh, it's so easy. Why don't these people just do this? But then you get inside and then you realize, oh my gosh, like this is like a machine. And, this requires a lot of people and a lot of collaboration and just a lot of time. And so I just try to give others grace.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's great. Okay, let's see here. What lessons have you learned from your nonprofit leadership work that you've applied to school governance?
Yeah, the nonprofit work that I've had the honor of being a part of and leading has primarily supported vulnerable communities, unhoused communities, or immigrant communities. And so I think for me, there's a saying in the nonprofit world where every child deserves a champion. And I think the actual quote is attributed to Rita Pearson. She gave this really awesome TED Talk. She's an educator and a speaker known for her passionate advocacy for students and education. And when I think about an issue or a topic, I really do try to think about the student first. I try to think about the parent and that family. And then I sort of branch out when I'm thinking about a response or a strategy to address that situation. I'll say that next month will mark a year since I've been on the board. And I think in that time, I've applied a lot of different skills and I've learned a lot of lessons during that time in regards to skills that I've kind of applied that I've used in the nonprofit space. I think the financial management, school financial management in particular, is a beast, honestly. And it's really different from what I'm used to in the nonprofit world, where you're managing like $1 million budget, if that, and you're responsible for a few staff. Now you're really putting on a different hat and you're managing a multi-million dollar, you're supporting the management of a multi-million dollar, organization ultimately. And I'm responsible for not just overseeing that budget, but also long-term financial planning, policy development, advocacy, resource allocation, and just so much more. And so it's an incredible opportunity. But again, collaboration is at the heart of this work. That's how I personally see it. Nothing is done in the nonprofit world in silos, and I'm realizing that is rings true even in the school district right now. And so it's amazing because a lot of parents have great ideas, or PTA leaders have great ideas, and continuing those conversations, showing up in these spaces, leaning on the expertise of colleagues who are more seasoned, right, than I, and saying, walk me through the history. How were things in the past? That really helps a lot. And again, I'm grateful that I've had that experience in the nonprofit space, leading an organization, and then now being a nonprofit consultant professionally. Every day there's a new grant or something that comes on my desk, and I'm like, oh, wait, maybe I can kind of pass this along. And so I'm always energized and fueled because of the work that I get to do on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. We may have already touched on this, but if there is anything else to call out, what are your strengths that allow you to serve our community effectively?
Yeah, I'm a really good listener at heart, and I'm really committed to making sure that every Westerville family feels heard, seen, and understood. And I think having those those soft skills are so important, especially in this sort of role. I think whether you are an alum with valuable insight, or a current or former teacher, or a student, or a caregiver of a Westerville student, your voice matters. And that's the message that I really try to give everyone. And I'm currently running on that platform. I really want to be a voice for all. And so I'm here to advocate for many communities and really empower folks and assure them that their concerns will always be brought forward. I also understand that not everyone can attend school board meetings, and that's also okay. And that's why I'm making it a priority to stay connected with the community in creative ways. So, really listening, engaging, and sharing resources with our Westerville schools, families, has gone such a long way for me, because I really just do believe that together we're stronger and we can build like a more inclusive school system. And so I think that having that mindset is my strength. And it really has been allowing me to learn a lot about this district and the unique needs of each family, because everyone is different. Every student is different. Every building is different. I mean, there's just so many cultures. Like, I'll run into a parent that's like, yeah, my kid's middle school, they do this. And then the high school does this, but then the elementary school does this. And it's just, sometimes I don't even know if I'm in the same district. And so I love that. And so I think just being grounded, being present, showing up. I mean, I can't think of a single event this year that I committed to that I did not attend. I'll just say, I think at some point I really was like, this is a full-time job.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh,
really,
yeah.
and it really is. I mean, it feels that way. And so I think just staying connected and really just being passionate and committed to showing up is a big strength, because the community just wants to see us. They really want to see and engage with the people who are making decisions that impact their children. So I think my commitment to being available is a huge asset and a strength.
Yes, and as a parent in the district, I am so thankful for all of you and everyone on the board specifically who gives so much of your time. It's amazing. Okay, as the first Somali woman to serve on an Ohio school board and a first generation student, how does your background shape your approach to equity in the district?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I think my background, it always grounds me, and it makes me realize that there are so many communities that just need additional assistance. And I think the best thing is, not to toot our district's horns, But I mean, honestly, we are killing it. I think we're doing such a great job. I truly have not run into anyone that has said, this district does not serve me or my child. If anything, it's, we need to do better here, or I'm not being listened to. But I think the intention is known. The people see that the care is there, and that makes me really happy. But I say that to also say that I have also run into a lot of families who need more and more support. And usually it's just a matter of not having the resources there. But a lot of the time, it's just a matter of reminding people of some of the gaps and barriers that individuals face. My educational experience, I know I spoke about it early on, but I was raised by a single mom who was learning the language while she raised us and took us to school, learning how to drive. I remember her literally following the school bus to make sure that we actually made it to class. And until, the fear and the anxiety kind of, she kind of got over that. And so that it was my upbringing, but I also really valued education. I mean, education, also the arts and all of that, but really at its core, I think a lot of households like mine, education is really like at the forefront of everything that you do. And so there are a lot of families that I know that just want to make sure that their kids are getting the same access to opportunities. And by serving on a board of this scale, like this is a really big school district, I just want to make sure that we're allocating dollars to support the needs of those students. And so I'll say that my approach to equity in the district is really inspired by that understanding. And I know I spoke about all the challenges that I overcame when I was in public schools, but I mean, there's just a lot of passionate teachers. It's just connecting these parents and the children's to resources. And so, I mean, I'll use our meeting last on Monday as an example. We put forward a new policy that would allow interpreters to also, because we're limited to 3 minutes when we're giving testimony. Whereas now it's if you have an interpreter, the interpreter will be given an additional 3 minutes to speak. And that's so important because you wouldn't have the time to effectively express yourself. But I think I also had asked a question around ensuring that materials are also translated to parents and to the students that need it across the district when we're talking about cell phone bans or whatever the topic is. I think I'm always thinking about equity in the questions that I ask. It may seem like low-hanging fruit or something that's common sense, but sometimes we just need to make that ask to ensure that nothing falls through the cracks. And so to answer that question, I think that's how my lived experiences has really shaped my approach to ensuring that there's equity in the district and in policies.
That's wonderful. And in some ways, we've been considering those barriers for students, but I haven't really thought about it for the parents because they want to be just as involved as everyone else. And I think that that's a really powerful insight and resource to have for the schools and our families. What other barriers would you think to remind our community about? I mean, I know there's financial barriers and obviously language barriers and along with that transportation, things like that. Is there anything else that, we may not think about?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that even just being able to show up at such a structured time, I mean, 6 p.m. every Monday or, most Mondays, that's a very specific time that may not work with a working parent's schedule. If you have a little one and you need to get them down for bed or multiple kids, I mean, whatever the situation is at home, something that I really loved during my time working for local government is our ability to work around those needs. So really making sure that we're having town halls in the community, maybe identifying locations like the public library or the community center here in Westerville, but we're meeting the people where they're actually at is so important. And studies have shown that increased public turnout and engagement as well. And so those are some barriers that I think about, even virtual. I wasn't around obviously during COVID, but I do know that right now with just the climate of things, a lot of families may not feel safe or comfortable showing up in a lot of public spaces. And that really saddens me. But, what does offering virtual options for families look like? These are some of the things that keep me up at night, that I think about. And so I think there's transportation is a big barrier. And also just showing up, because parents want to advocate for their kids. It's just a matter of how and what resources are available and how are we making it so that the system isn't working against them, but with them.
Mm-hmm. And so as a board member, can you run a town hall like that all together? I know that you guys are only compensated for that minimal time, during those structured meetings, but are there any other limitations to doing something like that other than time?
That's a really great question. That's a really great question. I'm actually in the process of rolling out listening tours, listening series, if you will. And I do intend on inviting other board members to join me. It is within our rights as board members to be that creative and host these public conversations. Of course, my goal, speaking for myself, is always to work with the district. So for me, that looks like it'll be a collaborative effort, hopefully, where I'm able to have admin come and join me, and maybe there's a resource table. The intention behind that is really to listen. Maybe it's a back to school theme. How can we support you this year? What's on your mind? Take those ideas and those concerns and those recommendations, because not everyone has time to email. My job as a board member is to engage this community, get that feedback, and and support the superintendent and so many others as well. And I don't see in any way that I can do that effectively if I'm not on the ground hearing from from families and community members. And so I think that having these opportunities for the community is not only possible, but it's necessary. And that's what really excited me. Again, like, I've seen this be really effective in local government, having these town halls, pushing for a state of the schools, something where the community is regularly being communicated with. And we're being as transparent as possible with all of our great updates. We do our best. We have amazing newsletters that go out. But again, not everyone is reading them. So I really just want to be as creative as possible. I really want to meet community members where they're at and make this something that people look forward to participating in. They already have so much on their plates, dropping their kids off, picking them up, taking them to sports, studying. So much, so many other things as well, volunteering, that having them take time out to show up for their children and learn from them, we should be making that like a very, very easy thing. So,
yeah. Your platform highlights transparency and meaningful engagement among parents, educators, and the community. Are there any other methods you've used or hope to use to increase that engagement? And have you seen any results so far?
I'll say that I love social media. I also just love connecting with different stakeholder groups. I've had the opportunity to meet with several teachers across the district. Even just recently, I tried to do the same thing with parents at a park or at the coffee shop or in their homes or really in the community, or I'll show up to local events that are happening if I'm invited to share some words or whatever it may be. That's how I've really been able to connect with folks. And I'm seeing that sharing information. I came in last year at the tail end of the levy campaign already happening, and I was getting videos out trying to push folks to, support it. I think social media can be a really powerful tool, not just social media, but also a lot of communication apps like WhatsApp. There are a lot of ways that we could reach the community that I'm finding has been very helpful. So I'll say that I have found success in keeping people engaged in that manner, but I'm also been there for such a short time in the grand scheme of things. Mm-hmm. I'm really looking forward to a lot of opportunities this year. My platform highlights transparency and meaningful engagement among parents, educators, and the community. When I think about my priorities and my platform, it's three things. It's to foster safe, fair, and supportive learning environments where all kids can thrive, promote transparency and meaningful engagement among parents, educators, and the community. And it's to ensure pre-K to 12th grade success through accountable evidence-based intervention. And that last one is really important to me because I hear a lot about K through 12, But, sometimes we don't hear enough about the preschool. And so as a mom, again, with a future preschooler, I really am always thinking about the future of this district. And I want to make sure that everything that we do touches all of our students, especially when they're entering our community for the first time. You want that to be a really great experience, but also holding one another accountable by being able to make decisions that are supported by data and research, whether it's, for example, the cell phone policy that we just introduced on Monday. We know that studies show that cell phones really do interrupt a student's ability to learn in the classroom. And so there's a lot of research to support a decision like that, for example. And all things, I think, making sure that we are being as transparent as possible about the whys in what we do is important. And I'm just really looking forward to, again, hopefully returning and being able to serve this amazing district.
Yeah. And forgive me, I did not go to the meeting on Monday. How did the cell phone policy change, or what's new with that?
Yes, great question. So last year we had rolled out new restrictions on the use of cell phones. I believe that at the time students could still use them during lunch and during recess, whereas this time, due to state law, Ohio is now requiring public schools to completely restrict the use of cell phones. So for Westerville, what that looks like for us is now not allowing cell phones at all from K through 12, even during lunch and during recess. However, there are some exceptions to that. For instance, if a student has a medical need, if cell phones need to be used or any device needs to be used for instructional time. Again, we know that a lot of our students that may have to learn the language may need the audio on a phone, or maybe a social studies teacher is giving a really great lesson and the students need their cell phones. So instruction time is also allowable. And then there are various other reasons as well, should a student need a phone. And of course, in the case of emergencies. And so we kind of talked about that. We talked about what discipline and actually rolling out a policy like this looks like, because the last thing we want is our educators to have another responsibility of managing cell phone use in the classroom. So we had a really great conversation around that. But this is not unique to just Westerville. We've had neighboring school districts like Gahanna pass this out, and it's been going well for them. And we heard from an administrator during the meeting that they have been working around the clock and getting feedback from those districts as well to see what worked and what didn't, so that we're setting ourselves up for success as well.
Right. Well, as a parent of a first grader who does not yet have a cell phone, I'm excited by that policy because I want to postpone that as long as possible. But I know that there are pros and cons for sure.
Yes, I get that.
Is there any other work that needs to be done to offer those accountable and evidence-based interventions for our students?
I'm a really big supporter of having committees like an equity committee, or, just allowing opportunities for different stakeholders to convene and really review some of our policies. Right now we do that already. We'll have like a finance committee. We have various committees in which we allow the public to come and join us. And we have staff that specifically work on conducting research for us. I think for me, I would really just love to maybe increase the cadence of those meetings, or like brief the community, whether it's in the form of a newsletter or a report about those findings. I think that would help. But I also think that there are a lot of resources available to public schools across this country. Some are more fortunate than others to receive grants to do those things. I'll give you an example. When I first joined the board, I was conducting some research. I'm a policy junkie. But I also, being in the nonprofit world, I'm always thinking about grants, and I came across an equity grants, and I had shared it with the appropriate individuals and with my colleagues and said, hey, we came across this grant. I think we should apply for it. It would be a great opportunity. I do believe that we did. But had we received that and it was a national grant opportunity, we would have been able to kind of review our equity policies in the district. It's like an equity audit. So that would have taken a lot of time and a lot of money to do in-house. And so I'm there's opportunities like that are out there. So I think we just need more eyes on opportunities like that so that we leverage those opportunities. And I know that some of that work is already being done, and we're doing such wonderful work. But to answer that question, for me, speaking for myself, I think that could be one way to ensure that we are leveraging evidence-based interventions, and just also looping in our educators as well, seeing what they've found works and what doesn't.
Oh, that's great. So you also emphasize fostering safe, fair, and supportive learning environments. What does that mean to you? And can you share a specific initiative you've championed that embodies this vision?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll start with the second part of the question. I have not yet had an opportunity to spearhead an initiative that focuses on this, or really review any policy that centers this conversation. However, what it means to me is really ensuring that whether it's bullying, and I am doing some work around that. I'm actually meeting with a community member this Friday to kind of talk about addressing bullying in our schools. I think that I think for me, of course, part of it is just you have the reviewing current district policies. Where can we make changes? There's that, which as a board member, I really do my best to do. I also try to get creative, and I'll look at other board docs around the country and see what other districts are doing. But then for me, that really looks like, and I know this will be very redundant, but going the extra mile to find people in the community who were impacted by an issue, whether it was bullying, and then identifying other stakeholders who have had success in addressing it. The individual that I'm meeting with, they professionally have supported students through bullying in various programs, and so I'm really excited to hear what his approach is and to get that feedback. And my hope is, whether it's in the form of a program, being able to say, hey, this program actually already exists in Central Ohio. Are we able to have this organization do an event, or maybe speak to students? So for me, making sure that we're hearing from the parents and from the educators and these stakeholders is really important. And reviewing the policy is also very important. But also allowing the students to openly and safely share what's going on is just as important. For me, maybe that comes in the form of a survey. I would have to look into whether we're doing that already. But there are a lot of things that our students are going through that they may not feel comfortable sharing. And we have amazing initiatives in the district, like our Hope Squad. And I know our students have access to their guidance counselors and to other safe adults in the buildings, but there are a lot of issues that are impacting our students, unfortunately. And I think in order to be a champion for each child, we got to be honest about how comfortable they are speaking up about some of these issues. And so it really is just looking for those opportunities, getting creative, see what's working, what's not working, and just sharing those ideas with the appropriate individuals in the district, and also communicating with my colleagues to get their amazing thoughts as well.
I'm not familiar with the Hope Squad.
Yes. So our Hope Squad in the district, so it really does function as a peer support system. And the entire goal is to provide friendship, encouragement, and support for students who are struggling with various things. So the students who are selected, they do go through the appropriate trainings. They are required to attend meetings. And again, the goal is to really just foster a promote positive mental health and wellness in their high schools. So I believe if you want to learn more about that, and if you're interested in doing more suicide prevention work and supporting that, then the Westerville Education Challenge is a good place to start. And also just contacting the district directly to see how you can support that. But a lot of our students, I've seen a lot of them in different buildings, and it's just really awesome to see students step up in that space. And, September is National Suicide Prevention Month. So I anticipate that they will be doing something. So I really just look forward to that as well. And they did expand to the middle school in 2024 as well.
That's wonderful. As the state's funding for our public schools decreases, the community is being asked to consider the earned income tax levy this November. What message would you share with residents as they weigh this decision?
You know, I'll say that public education benefits not just students, but the entire community. I mean, the entire society, truly. And I think that I understand what gives people pause. And a lot of the time, it's lack of transparency from their perspective. What I would say is that we're available. I'm available as a board member to answer any questions that you may have. I'm also confident that supporting an earned income tax this November will truly help this community thrive. It'll help keep our students safe. I mean, I think something when we failed our levy last year, one of the biggest lessons that I took away was giving people real life examples. And so I'll say for us this time around, when we talk about safety, because that's a priority of mine, being able to pass this levy means making sure that we have more staff in the buildings, ultimately support our students. That is amazing. It also means that our children will have access to resources. We've already seen, unfortunately, cuts to critical roles. We've cut our English language learners, staff from the EL departments, right? And I'm using that example just because of the conversations we've been having throughout the day, and personally having benefited from that service when I was a child. I don't want to see more cuts that impact our most vulnerable students. I don't want to see more cuts that push us back. We've worked so hard to get to where we're at as a district. I also want people to change their mindset on how they view income taxes, and levies in general. When we have a fire or a police levy on the ballot, no one is thinking, we don't want to support this because we want to be safe. We know that that is something that benefits the public. Our public schools also benefit the public. These are students that go on to be doctors. They go on to be firefighters and all these wonderful things. And so we need to support and give back to these students. Times are also just really hard across the country in the education sector, and we're going to continue to see cuts at the federal level, at the state level. We're already experiencing that. We're already feeling the effects of that as well. And so not passing this income tax this November is really going to be detrimental. And it's going to be something, it's going to take us years to recover from. It really will. Um, and so I think that's the message that I want to share with residents, is that all of our children deserve access to quality education. They deserve the same opportunities that we've all been provided. And our district is already doing its fair share. This is a collaborative effort. I talked a lot about collaboration today. The state has its responsibility, the community has its responsibility, and the district has its responsibility. And so step up alongside us is my message, so that all kids in our community can thrive.
Absolutely. And I think also for those individuals who are tired of hearing about levies, right, that's a conversation at the state level. That is, it's twofold. You can still support your schools and be frustrated by the circumstances that we're in. You said something earlier, and if you're able to do this, I think it might be valuable for some of our listeners. Can you paint a picture for us what it's like for a student in the district who doesn't speak English as their first language?
Yeah. I had the opportunity to sit in a classroom earlier this year, and if you just close your eyes and you just picture yourself walking into a classroom, and you have a very passionate educator in a room with 8 kids. And of those 8 kids, you have 4 emergent English language learners, or even 3, or even 2. You have 2 students who don't know a word of English, and they're learning the language. Even with an aide or extra help in the classroom who is also being pulled into different places, that educator now has to multitask and teach a lesson to the native English speakers, but also is expected to give one-on-one time to those English language learners. What I witnessed was a student be shown flashcards and asked, "Can you describe this? What is happening in this image?" And the student would say, and do their best to describe, you know, that is a fountain, a drinking fountain, or this is this, or this is that. That takes a lot of time. You want to give these students that are learning um, an opportunity to take their time. Having conversations is so important for folks, especially when they're learning the language. What might take just 1 minute to explain to a student that understands the language, it may take 5 minutes for another student, because you're not only translating, you're using multiple examples in the room and you're using body language. You're doing a lot that takes up a lot of time. And so you're also using the devices to help these students hear and repeat. And so that just where I'm getting at is that takes a lot of time and a lot of love. Um, and our educators are doing their absolute best to support all the children in our classroom while also upholding the standards that we expect of them. And that is a lot. And I applaud our educators for being able to do that day in and day out and give it their all, like every single time. So there are a lot of unique needs that our students face. They do need support. They do need assistance. And when you're learning the language, and studies show this, having a device teach you is not the most effective way. You really do want somebody there that speaks your language, that can help you. Having conversations is so, so important. I'll use the Somali language as an example. I'm Somali. We're more of an oral community. We speak. We don't really have an official written language. And so when I'm volunteering and I'm teaching people to learn English who speak Somali, I'm doing a lot of gestures. I'm using a lot of examples. I'm sounding things out, showing things. That is not something that my community could really learn by using a device. And so there's a lot of needs facing our kids. And I just want folks to understand that helping our students thrive and giving our educators an opportunity to do their work well is heavily reliant on resources that are available. And getting an earned income tax passed this November will absolutely ensure that we have more opportunities for our students and for the heroes that are in the classroom, making their days better. And their learning experience is wonderful. So yeah, we really need to put those kids first. And
that's great. We've talked a lot about this already, but I do want to ask this question and give you an opportunity to share anything else that's on your mind. But are there any other long-term changes that you hope to see in our Westerville City schools? And how do you plan to achieve those?
Yeah, no, that's a really great question. I think the priorities that I'm running on this year are exactly the changes that I hope to see, which is fostering safe, fair, and supportive learning environments, promoting transparency through those creative engagement opportunities we discussed earlier, town halls, opportunities to meet with folks in the community, and really leaning on data to support our decisions. I would say that those are 3 long-term changes that I hope to see in the district, but they're all positive. And these aren't just ideas that I want. I know many other people believe in the same exact thing, and so I think through collaboration we'll be able to achieve it. And we're also making strides as a district on some of these things. I just hope to be a voice and a vehicle for others to ensure that we can speed up some of those expectations.
Yeah, that's wonderful. How has campaigning been? Like, what are the best parts? What are the, not so fun parts? How's it going?
Yes, I think campaigning, it's interesting because I actually professionally also, I've had the honor of serving on the Power Commission. It's a POWERS stands for Programs for Ohio Women Empowered to Represent. And we train and support women, Republican and Democrat women who want to run for public office. And I've had the opportunity of doing that as a commissioner for the past 5 years. So I've seen people run for office. I've helped that. I've served for women in office. And so now kind of being in that same position and doing this for the first time, it really is a whole different ballgame. I've loved it. It's taken really, I think it's it's exhausting. I mean, this district is massive. Sometimes I'm on the northern end, sometimes I'm down on the southern end of the district, sometimes I'm somewhere in between at a coffee shop, meeting with people. It takes up a lot of time, but having those conversations, great conversations with folks, really refuels me. And I'll also say, just being like a mom to a very, very, very little one does not make it any easier.
Right.
But we get fun with it. We're just like, hey, let's go to the park. We're going to do a little activity today. We're going to go to a touch and truck event and we'll connect with people. And, it's just awesome being able to merge, the family time and the campaign time when I'm able to. But it's just been wonderful supporting other candidates as well on the trail, and uplifting issues like the levy right now, when I get a chance to connect with community members to say, hey, I want this to also be on your mind. In addition to supporting me this fall, please make sure that, you are aware of the income tax that is also on the ballot. So the earned income tax. And so it's been great, but it's a lot of work. And I just ask that listeners and that community takes time to reach out, consider the priorities that I'm bringing forward. And if they see me in the community, I am not one to shy away from a conversation. I ask that I am stopped and spoken to. I love connecting with people when I'm able to.
Where can our community find you?
Yes, on Instagram, they can find me at Anisa for All. And the handle that will appear is Anisa Liban for Westerville School Board. My website is also www.anisaforall.com. And on Facebook, Anisa Liban for Westerville City Schools. I am not yet on TikTok, but I want to get on the TikTok. And then I am also planning a Popsicles at the Park event on Thursday, September 11th. So I'm excited. It might be the 11th or it might be the 10th, just kind of depending on weather.
We'll keep our eyes open. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your time, Anisa. I look forward to seeing you out and about and supporting you this fall.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Bethany.